Finally doing this.
Yo, this is gonna be fun. What is it?
I am tired, I am anxious, I'm worried.
It's something that we, like, for some reason, we don't feel comfortable. So, welcome to Mental Health Society, where we address the topics around health, wellness, love, relationships, and our society. I'm Dr. Wade Palmer,
And I'm Gerard.
and this is the first segment called Mental, where we're addressing challenges, and particularly amongst men, and also here to encourage open and very vulnerable conversations about, or dialogue really, about mental health within, I think, our setting that's relevant to us as young men, and hopefully it transcends well beyond that.
Yeah. In each episode, we'll be chatting with men like ourselves from all walks of life, including athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, and everyday men about their experiences with mental health. We'll discuss the highs and the lows, the challenges and triumphs, and everything in between.
Yeah, so sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or tea if you so choose. And let's dive into it, and hopefully you feel less isolated and like you're alone in this. So this is mental. So I think the last discussion you and I had, we got some good feedback, and a lot of, I don't know what yours was like, but I got a lot of requests from people wanting to know when's the second installment. So this, I was trying to think about it earlier. Is this the first installment? Is it the second, or is it actually 0.5? But I suppose it's the first of mental. And this is relevant to us. But we'll build off the last conversation.
I got good feedback from a lot of people, and the questions that we were asking in that episode, I think spoke to a lot of people, and spoke to a lot of what people are dealing with, because like we spoke about, this is not being mentioned out there right now, this topic specifically. And it was interesting for me because I shared the link with a lot of people to be able to view that episode that we did, and every person that got back to me said that this is not being spoken about enough, which told me that we needed to start this thing. Like, we needed to get this going, because this is such an important thing, and I hope, like you do, that what we talk about here helps, even if it's just one person, you know?
And that one is relevant. So again, you and I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, and we were planning, how do we get started? And the answer was, we'll just get started. But
just do it.
Yeah, in terms of impacting people, it starts with one. Every movement starts with one. And the hope is that it impacts one. Even if you and I are that one. Because I can tell you now, even after that conversation, I had revelations in my own life regarding, my mental health or well-being. And so as we dig deeper into the conversations around this, we'll actually end up digging deeper into ourselves. And I suppose there's probably going to be tears and a lot of emotion, which is
been cracked.
100%. I'm one of them.
I agree
cry often. So let me start off with this.
Sure.
How are you doing?
I don't get asked that question enough. And like we spoke about before, people ask this question and they just say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And you just say, "I'm fine." Right now, I am anxious. I'm a little bit scared. What we're doing here today is it's making me feel good in terms of there's something that's happening that I'm excited about. Because we've spoken about how we wanted to do this for the longest time and we've been putting it off. And that perfectionist in me has been like, oh no, we need this and we need that and whatever. And you coming into my life has changed that for me, where it's let's just do this, right? So I'm excited that we're doing this. But on a personal level, I am tired, I am anxious, I'm worried. Life is hard, man. Like life is hard, and it's difficult to get through things without wondering how are we supposed to survive. And I think a lot of the stuff that I am struggling with at the moment is from a financial side of things. It freaks me out to think how we have this little baby and there's creche and there's going to be school and it just keeps going. And then from a personal side of things, it's like, am I doing enough to be the best dad that I can be to Benjamin and the best husband that I can be to Thor and my wife? Like, there's such a lot going through my mind. And yeah, like at the moment, I'm overwhelmed, I guess is the word that's going to encompass all of the feelings. I'm overwhelmed at the moment. And I'm just trying to handle it. Because that's what we must do, right? Deal with it. Supposed to. Yeah. What did they say? Man up.
Man up. Yeah. Whatever that looks like. Look, I think the idea of constantly moving, especially when you feel like you don't have a grip on things, is actually just stop. Just stop for a second, however long that second truly is for you, whether it's a day, whether it's a week or weeks. Just stop, because I think it's in our innate nature to actually look at finding a solution. And so you try find solutions to everything, and not sort of putting it in little boxes and rearranging it. So what's the most important for now? And then focusing on that and finding a solution for that. It's almost like creating a checklist like you would for work. We do it for work, we do it for grocery shopping. Yeah. And it sounds so simple, right? But we were talking about the setup of this and how overcomplicated we make things as human beings. Yeah. So even dealing with our own mental health or well-being, or the sort of factors that influence our mental well-being, sometimes the solutions are so simple. Yeah. Right? I'm thinking about it now and it's hitting me. I actually hate the words. I'm hating it now. Not hating. Hating is a strong word, but I just like it and I'm not agreeing with it in terms of mental health. You and I, just before we started this, we were talking about the fact that we as human beings make everything a destination. Yeah. And not a journey. Right? So if you looked at mental health, or wellness sounds like a destination, like a paradise. So put in work and you'll get there. But that's not what life is about realistically. What if we redefined it and called it mental fitness? Because then you're constantly working. 100%. Yeah. Because that's what, I don't gym much, but from what I hear is that there's one day is shoulders. Yes. Then it's back, and then you've got different parts. Correct. And so even if we looked at everything that contributes to our mental wellness, if we isolated it the same way we would with gym. So how does my spiritual life influence my mental wellness? Is that something I can focus on today? So whether it's just a Sunday, you go to church or whatever the case may be, but to isolate every aspect, whether it's your finances, your physical well-being, and actually say, well, today is neck and back. Yeah. And that relates to your spiritual life. Yeah. but you've isolated it for that purpose. And so when you now start focusing on all these elements, we then start realizing how we'll get to a place where we can actually endure and not necessarily learn to cope or survive. I dislike the word survival.
Yeah, because it feels like that. It feels like you are just surviving at the moment. Like you, especially for me, like I'm surviving in order to get to a certain point in the year, even. And when I get to that point, I can take a breath. Maybe for a week, because I'll take leave, and I don't need to really stress about work, and I don't need to stress about the baby, and then that week's done, and then you go back to the hustle and bustle of the everyday life, and then you do what you need to do, and then you work your way up to the end of the year, because now then that's the December holidays, and now that's a point that you can look forward to and be like, oh, I'm excited because I can rest.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable, like that. There's such a lot that goes on, and I spoke to my wife about this because previously I struggled a lot, and I still struggle with everything that goes on in my mind, and I tried to do everything all at once. There was that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, whatever. I think it's a new movie now, but like I'm that person. I'm literally I'm thinking about everything else. Even while we're sitting here, I'm thinking about the fact that the pool pump is on, and I'm thinking about my wife being at the shop and Benjamin being like, my mind is just constantly going. And someone gave me advice once that, especially for me and the way that I handle things, is that in the mornings, get up. And this speaks to the mental fitness side of things. Right? In the mornings, get up, go outside, go for a walk, and try and find as many green things as possible. Because I'm focusing my mind on that thing only. I'm going to go around the area and I'm going to find as many red things. Yeah. So I'll find a red car, I'll find a stop sign, I'll find whatever, and I'll count them. And in that half an hour, I'm only doing that. I'm not worried about what time Benjamin's going to get up and he needs to eat and he needs to get to creche and whatever. I'm not worried about it's bin day, so I need to take the bin out. I'm not worried about Thora needs to be dropped somewhere, and I'm only thinking about this thing. And I found that it helped me because I used to go outside to the yard and I used to count the amount, and this might sound crazy, but I used to count the number of bricks in the paving. And there's a lot of paving. But that's what I did. I literally went and I walked and I put earphones in for some white noise, and I just kept quiet in that sense. And I counted the number of bricks, and I tried to only worry about that thing. When I was done with that, I could then focus on the next task. And when I was done with that task, I could then focus on the next task. Because what I was doing was I was getting up already thinking about what I was going to do and what I needed to do for the day. And I wasn't going through the journey of the day, just experiencing things. I was going, you know what? I'm so worried about everything that's going on, I'm almost doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a thing, right?
Yeah, 100%. So you touched on two very important things. It's like the waking up in the day, and I think for a lot of us today, and I hear it often, and I'm guilty of it on occasion too, is that you wake up with anxiety. If you were quiet and actually thought about where does that anxiety stem from? Anxiety in that instance stems from the fact that you've already planned out your entire day. Your mind has gone to 4 p.m.
Yes.
And your body is still at 6 a.m. Like physically. So your mind has played out your future already, but your body's still here, and it's creating the sense of anxiety because there's a massive disconnect. My mind and my body are not in the same place currently.
Yeah.
And so you have this flare up of anxiety and stress. And like you're saying, you then become counterproductive the entire day. And I've seen, like in my own life, I do that, and then eventually it's like already my checklist is not going to get done.
Yeah.
But I've had to find a way to actually quiet my mind, and I think this is crucial. And this is what men struggle with. Take it from a point of a relationship.
Mm.
Right? They would always say women like move on after relationships. Say it
Yes.
ended, right? They move
Quicker.
on. No, men move on quicker. But men move on quicker in a unhealthy state.
Yeah.
Women move on because they've processed. They were quiet. They experience, and this was the second point I want to make, is about experiencing things. Women experience the full extent of the emotions, the hurt that comes with it, or the ending the relationship. Men jump to the next tree.
Yeah.
This is why Tarzan was probably a male, not just jump from tree to tree,
Yeah.
right? And at some point in our life, most of us as men are guilty of that. And I think when I truly started investing in my mental fitness was literally when the chips were down. You've got no one around you. And you start asking yourself like real questions. And the answers you get are not pretty. But you require to be extremely vulnerable with yourself. And start taking responsibility for the role that you played in every aspect of your life. For every sort of disappointment in your life, look at how you played a role in it and how it didn't work out. And likewise for the positive things in your life, is to actually sit down and pat yourself on the back, because the world's not going to do it.
Yeah. True.
So if you looked at where you know, and I spoke about this earlier, 3 questions: where do you come from, where are you now, and where are you going? For every aspect of your life, you could probably tap yourself on the back.
Yeah.
You may be not where you want to be, but you're definitely not where you were, where you had started out.
Yeah.
And that requires a celebration of self, because you're worthy of it, right? And even that, so the word worthy is something that men, for some reason, we don't ever feel like we're worthy.
Yeah.
So we're constantly pushing for more. Constantly, like, I think it was Chris Rock who said, only women, babies, and I think dogs are loved unconditionally. It's an correction. It was Chris Rock, but how he phrased it, you know, maybe taking it out of context. But he said men are only loved or accepted for what they can provide. So imagine in a state where you are yet to discover how you provide everything you need in order to exist in the world as a man. So how do you provide yourself with mental fitness, with sound decision making, financial security? We haven't figured that out, but we already demanded to provide it for someone else.
Yeah.
Imagine the stress, like, and this is why that mental fitness is so important, because we sit again, gym. If I went now, I'll probably struggle again. 10 kg dumbbells is probably, I could probably do 5 proper reps with it. But that's once off. Yeah. But if I keep applying myself to that, eventually you would have built up the muscle bulk as well as the endurance in order for you to deal and not survive, not cope, to actually deal and process and get to the other end. And even getting to that other end is just a peak of another mountain, probably.
Yeah.
Because that's what life does, like it fluctuates. So we're in a constant state of flux. But if we don't learn to be fluid with life and accept that life happens, you know, positive, negative, it depends on how you look at it. But all of these things play a role in strengthening us and sharpening us in some shape or form. But you don't realize it because we don't spend the time being quiet, which I think women are brilliant at. Men, however, we suck at it, man. Yeah. It's absolutely, it's terrible. But it's quieting your mind is probably one of the crucial things because of the hustle and bustle of life. And I was listening to, like Benji, like everything, but that's the parent within you.
Yeah.
Right? But how do you ensure that, like you're saying, you want to be the best parent, but what are the steps involved in getting to that point? And also, what's the definition of a great parent?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who set that standard? Who has the definition of it? Someone must show me.
Where's the
blueprint? 100%. And we don't typically have the blueprint for anything. I think there's so much conversation about mental health in general, and more so amongst men, because we don't actually have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah.
So we're engaging in more and more conversation around it because we don't have the tools. And in this week, I stopped, or last week at least, I stopped there at a bookstore and looked at all the books. I was looking for a book in particular.
You're an avid reader?
Not avid, but I've taken a liking to it.
Okay.
And so I just took it, like as I walked in, I realized there's titles for a whole bunch of books, right? You've got religion, fiction, non-fiction, romance, all of that. And then I saw the section self-help. And it got me thinking, there's no shelf for how to help others.
Yeah.
Because we still don't know how to help ourselves. I'm still on that journey. So there's no book on how to help someone else. And it's scary to think, because we've got books on how to start a business, how to make that business successful, but nothing on how to help someone else. And it's things like when people come to you, and it's off that last question, or the first question you had asked me when we initially started was, how are you doing? And I asked, are you prepared for the answer? Do you have the skill set to deal with the answer? And you were saying no one asks you that question. Right? I'm guilty of it too. I always say, I think in this year I've only had 2 patients ever ask me, how are you doing, doctor?
Yeah.
And as I'm thinking about it now, why are you not that person to ask yourself, how are you doing?
That's true. Because you're allowed to.
100%. I think this is probably the healthiest time you could have a conversation with yourself and not seem crazy. It's everywhere else, people are going to be like, oh, this guy. Probably not in the greatest...
Don't do it sitting at KFC in the booth alone.
That's not the best. Go for a hike or something.
Yeah.
But I think we have to learn to be responsible to ourselves and for ourselves first before we can even try and be responsible for others in our lives. And that's friendships, that's colleagues. I often sit and people ask me for advice, and you and I said this earlier, it's like, at times you probably feel somewhat hypocritical because we are all great at giving advice.
100%.
But never taking it. And I think for a lot of us, the advice that we give stems from a place where we have gone through the same situation and it's what we should have done.
Yeah.
But we didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn, the hard way. So the investment into our own mental health and our mental well-being, our mental fitness, is crucial. And I think the responsibility falls on us, but I think we fear, again, it's that over fear thing. We fear the honesty of ourselves, and that's a difficult process to go through, because when you are completely honest with yourself, you face the ugly parts of yourself. There's a reason yin and yang exist. There's no light without darkness. And to understand that both exist, but it's what you choose to dominate within your life. We all have a bit of darkness. To someone, you're a villain.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. And then to others, you're the hero of the story. But can we, not you, can we start being the heroes of our own story?
Yeah.
Because it starts there. I mean, it's again that reference I made previously, carrying the black bag with all the dirt. If we don't take the time to actually stop and see what is in here that's actually valuable, but we just never perceived it as valuable, we always thought it was dirt.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's time for us as men to not necessarily only engaging in conversation with each other or within our work environment, but with ourselves. Women diarize more than we do.
Probably.
Right about, all the movies we watch, we always see teenage girls.
Yeah.
Journaling about, Eric said this today and it made me feel, a certain way. But we haven't invested in it. And I think it's because we've never been able to express ourselves. And even through that expression, finding the correct words to adequately express yourself. Because there's always, there's like one word to express.
Yes.
Say, cover 5 words that you would have used.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is. So I'm terrible at English. But the more you invest in anything, the better you become at it.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
Practice, right?
Yeah. Practice. Okay, they say practice makes perfect. No. Practice just makes better. If you ever reach perfection, then you stop growing.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would ever reach perfection.
Yeah. Not possible.
No.
I was thinking about what you said now with regards to yourself being your first point of what needs to be looked after. And there's a guy, I think we both know him, Stephen Bartlett, that he has his own podcast, The Diary of a CEO. He says something which I find really interesting, and it makes such a lot of sense. Like, he says, if I'm this guy, I'm this person, I'm a successful person even, and I have this business, I have a girlfriend, I have a family, I have money, I have all of these things. You take away the money, I still have those things. You take away my girlfriend, I still have the businesses and the money and the whatever. You take away anything, I still have something. You take away my health, all of it's gone. I need to make sure, and he uses the metaphor of a table. He says, if I'm the table, or if the table is here, like if you take away the table, everything falls. Similarly, for us as human beings, and it's not just men, but all of us, if you take away the health aspect of yourself, if you take away you, there is nothing else. So for me, the most important things in my life, my wife and my son, like I'm so worried about them, and I'm doing everything I can to make their lives better and be the best husband and father for them. And it's making me feel this way, as in anxious, and I'm always worried, and like I'm working myself to the bone kind of thing. But if I don't take care of me, there is no me for them to love. And I've started to really take that to heart, to kind of like you're saying, ask the questions of ourselves. Because it's okay to do that. It's okay to say, how are you actually feeling? And we talk about health. It doesn't need to be health as in physical health alone. It's mental health as well. Like if I'm not the best that I can be, and I'm not doing the best that I can to make sure that if I'm not doing my fitness in terms of my mental fitness, if I'm not keeping myself healthy, there is no me for people to love. There is no me for people to worry about. There is no me to do the worrying even, you know. So it's very important that we find the time and we find the ways to be able to deal with everything that's going on, because it's a lot.
Yeah, life in general, people will say, is a lot. Right? You mentioned now finding the time. We're never going to find the time.
Yeah.
We have to create the time. And you know, like you're saying, as a father, when you look at your schedule during the course of the day, waking up and making sure your son's ready for where he needs to be. Right? So it's nappies, it's all of that. You made time.
Yeah.
You may not see it this way, but you made time. You looked at what your day would be like. Everybody needs to be there. Work starts at 8. So in order for work to start and be prompt at 8, I gotta make time. I need 3 hours. Therefore, I wake up at 5. It was a choice that you made to wake up at 5. You could wake up at 7:55. You could be late for everything else in the world, definitely. But you made the time.
Yeah.
It just happened to be at 5 a.m. and it feels ungodly. But you made the time for it. So likewise, we need to make the time for ourselves. And usually, the way I've encountered it as a young adult, very early into this adulting thing, it's absolute nonsense. We've tried to make time, and we often fall off the bandwagon because we try and make the time later on in the day.
Yes.
So by then, the entire day is past us, and we're so fatigued.
Yeah.
Don't have the mental capacity to even ask the question, "Wait, how are you doing?" Because the answer, surface level, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I don't even want to have this conversation with myself right now, let alone with my wife, let alone me. And then you have to create the energy to be the husband, to be the father that you envision. And I think it would be an interesting conversation to actually have. It's like, what are the expectations within a marriage?
Yeah.
In a marriage where you've got 2 people working, what does the time look like? The time afforded for each other. What are the simple things? Like, is it, let's wake up at 4:45. Let's pray together. Let's each take 15 minutes before we start getting ready with our responsibilities, because we've neglected our main responsibility. The I, the we. And when I say the we, I don't mean like 9 personalities. If you have that, probably got to check that out. But it's your soul, your mentality, your physical well-being, all of that stuff. It is something like, you sure? I gave up on a 6-pack long ago. Always had the desire. Always said at 30 I'll have it. With 2 years into the 30s and we'll give it up.
I've done the same. 4 years into the 30s and.
But the idea is to actually find the time to do check-ins with ourselves on a regular basis, and it's never going to happen overnight. And like when I listen to you saying, like you feel like you need to constantly be the best, father and the husband, and you create time for, like you're saying, the things that are important for you. And I think that this is a fear for a lot of us. And there's a certain level of guilt, and I don't know why this guilt exists, but there's a bit of guilt to take time for ourselves.
Yes.
Right? It almost feels like that we're stealing from others. So this is where we think we are giving in our greatest capacity or in a healthy nature. We're not. And it never it's never sustainable to keep giving from broken cup, empty cup. Eventually you're going to start scooping up dirt. You're just digging and pouring over, and then we wonder why what we now is out. What are we, Gen Zs? I can't keep up with it.
I think it's Gen Zs now, but we're millennials.
Oh, we're millennials. I can't keep up. But the reality is that we've got this thing called like toxicity, right? It's a big thing. It's, toxic this and toxic that.
Yeah.
Man, we as individuals, always say when any relationship has any form of turmoil, even the relationship with yourself, there are two parts to it. It's your side and the person who's this. Like again, you are the villain in someone's story.
Yeah.
And it's easier to paint someone else as the villain and never actually take responsibility for what you've played in. And that then boils down to ego and pride.
Yeah.
And those two things are so difficult to deal with. And that was actually the book I was looking for. Was ego.
Yeah.
How to deal with my ego. Because I haven't perfected it. And I don't think I ever will. Because there's constantly a new challenge to my ego. So it's almost, think of it like going through school. And they always say life is like school. It will teach you lessons. But how you pass each grade for each thing in your life depends on you. It's like how they drop the pass mark to 30%. But if you pass with 30%, yes, you passed matric.
Yeah.
But what does it mean in terms of going to university? You can't go to Wits, UCT, Stellenbosch, UKZN.
Yeah.
You could only go to a certain level. So you can't be 30%, someone who passed with 30% and then decided, I want to be a doctor.
Doesn't work.
Sorry, it doesn't work that way. So how you pass is dependent on how much work you put into it. And we were all there. We had to go through that and we worked hard at certain subjects in order to get to where we needed to be to qualify to go to a specific university. And even then, you were like, okay, cool. I want to pursue. Yeah. So now you needed to push even further. But that's what life is about. But the only way we identify our weaknesses, it comes back to sitting in the morning or whenever and actually checking yourself and saying, what's going on with it? And then being able to reflect on it and highlight, this is where I was weak, maybe during the week. Or reflecting on a situation, I had an argument with this person and find out, what was the reason for the argument? Because arguments only stem from miscommunication. So either I didn't express myself properly, or the way I received the message was the problem. So did I base my reception of that message based off a previous scenario that was similar to this? Because that's what our brains do. It draws from past experience, and that's how we react to it. So we can change and redefine and reform how we engage in different areas of our life by reflecting back on, I once was there, I had a similar situation. This is where I am now, and this is where I would like to be. This is how I'd like to parent. This is how I'd like to be a husband. This is also how I'd like to be Gerald. This is how I'd like to be Wade. And then to be completely happy with it, because the reality is we'll never please everybody. We're never going to fit. We were never made to fit in everywhere. This is you're not a multi-purpose plug. Legit, you're not. You're not meant to be. Because what happens with multi-purpose plugs? Short circuits. So, and I'm not even an electrician, but I from experience, that's what happens. It's like, so it's becoming more and more apparent to me through life that, my early 32 years of being on this earth, is that challenges are here to shape and mold us for the better, but only if we choose to see it that way. Only if we tend to reflect on it and actually draw strength from challenges. So for me, with everything that we go through in life, typically it's all for our good. If we tend to or desire to look at it that way. But so I think within your workspace, how often do you guys, like the men specifically, check in on each other? Because I know you said you've got a social group. Okay, so let's take it home and say your social group. So your friends. And how often do you guys just check in? Because we can't always meet. Like you were saying,
Everyone's busy.
everyone's busy, married life. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the checking in with each other, it happens rarely. Because I think we've become so used to the world of social media in terms of seeing things online and being like, oh, cool, wait, cool. He's gone somewhere and he seems happy. Because I see a picture of you, so it's like, okay, cool, nice, he's good. Or even WhatsApp, just messaging each other and being in groups with each other. Like I literally showed you a picture a few minutes before we started about the group that I've got with two of my closest friends. And even in that group, it's not often that the question is, how are you doing? It's more just talking, like even this morning or last night, I think it was, I sent a message just like, how's the kids? Because Benjamin's not feeling well. And they hung out on Saturday.
Okay.
So the assumption is
The other kids
might be sick as well. So my message was literally to check in on the kids. But that never happens really, It's more just a consequence of what was going on right now. From a different friend group perspective, that question is never asked. Never asked, because the group that we have, we talk about soccer, football. There's jokes involved, there's memes and things, and videos and pictures are shared and stuff. Not once has anybody asked, how is this person doing? We'll talk about things in person if we see each other. Again, very rarely. But it's never to a point where the outcome is let's help or let's understand what this person is going through. I think the conversation we had in the first episode of a podcast that we did previously, that has opened up my thinking and my ability to engage a little bit more with my friends and family and things, where I'm almost forceful now in the way that I'm trying to understand how people are doing, because I was guilty of that same thing where it's just how are you doing,
Yeah, so you become more intentional about the question.
100%. Becoming more intentional with everything really. And what was really nice for me, and I'm still getting used to it, but my wife coming to me and asking me, how are you doing? Not that it wasn't done before, it wasn't done as often. It would happen now and then, but now it's more a case of my wife coming to me and asking that question, wanting to know exactly, like you did earlier, how am I actually doing? What am I thinking? What am I worried about? And it's almost caught me off guard a little bit, just because now I want to give her the real answer, whereas normally I would just be like, I'm fine, I'm cool. I was thinking about something that you were saying earlier from a coming home from work perspective, where we don't have time to do anything else. When I come home from work, and my wife and I, and I'm hoping she'll be okay with me talking about this, but we can always edit it out. But her and I are very different, and that's a good thing. But her and I are very different in the way that we handle our emotions. If she's having a bad day at work, I will see that, because she will be a certain way when she comes home. She'll be a little bit downcast. She'll be a little bit quiet. I said this to her before, I'm like, have I ever had a bad day at work? Ever? And the answer from her was no, because I just don't talk about it. I've never, ever, ever said, oh, today was a bad day. Because I've had many bad days. I just, why worry her with what I'm having to deal with? You know, like I leave it at work.
Yeah.
I come home and I'm automatically switched on into now being the best husband I can be.
Yeah.
And that's tiring, man. Like, I don't know if it's a normal thing for men to do that. I'm assuming that it's, a lot of guys out there are doing the same thing, where they're almost hiding how they are feeling throughout the day and just switching to this other version of themselves when they get home and they see their wives. Because that's what I've done. Like I have a busy day, I get home, switch is flipped, and automatically I'm now into cool. Let's have supper. Let's do this. Let's play with Benjamin. Let's get in bath. Like, and it's just interesting to me because we're so different. Thor and I, my wife and I, like we're so different. But I'm trying to be more intentional in explaining myself to her. And she asked me the other day, "How you feeling? And is there anything you want to tell me?" And I said, "No, I'm fine."
Yeah.
And she called me out, and she was like, "You know, you spoke to Wade in that podcast, right?
Yeah.
And you guys said that you need to share more and be open and talk more and tell people how you're feeling, and you're not doing that right now. So how are you doing? Like, like how was your day?" And then I was like, okay, let me, get this off my chest.
So that's you're touching on something called, a practice called holding space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes like it's more necessary now. The fear of speaking to somebody, and we as men, and this is how we see it, as we don't want to burden the next person with our problems, because you've probably had a crappy day as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let me be there for you, and this is it. It's being there. And sometimes you shouldn't have that sort of mentality and saying, you know what, I actually had a bad day. It's to come in and say, and I've learned this now, because life does happen to all of us, and sometimes it happens at the same time, just in different ways, right? But we're all dealing with something. And so it's for me to be able to say, Gerard, listen, I'm going through something, and this is volunteering it. I'm going through something. Can you hold space for me? And then, so he has more responsibility and not being in your fields about getting the response right, because it's the question that I posed you in terms of, can you hold space for me and be there for me? There's two answers, it's a yes or a no. And I think how we respond to that, because you never know if you are the last person that person's trying to reach out to, based off whatever the situation is, right? So it may be actually, wait, I don't, or I'm busy right now. Can we touch base in an hour?
Yeah.
That's not a no.
Yeah.
It's I'm just busy with something. I'm busy washing my boy.
Yeah.
Can I chat to you in an hour? I'll give you a call, or you can call me in an hour, because you may get busy and forget to call me. And you say, can you call me in an hour, and I'll make time to then speak. And the same within your relationships. And I think it's friendships, relationships with our parents, wherever there's a trusted person, it's to now start volunteering it. I think the biggest pain point for us in terms of communication and not being understood is the fact that we don't volunteer information. So like you were saying, you were asked, how are you doing? And you said, I'm fine. Women do this, when we as men, sorry for those who are married, but we as men, we've developed this ability to almost switch off. This is a trade secret. I'm not going to be liked by men probably after this, but they will talk, and we have we've developed this ability to act as if we are paying attention. Because we know some of those things are not, we've learned over time with being with your partner,
Yeah.
she just wants to vent and get certain things off, but not everything is important.
Yes.
But my encouragement would probably be for us as men to take the practice of speaking about every single thing, even if it was not, or may not be perceived as relevant. But the ability to have a soundboard, because you will catch yourself.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, because men are innately driven towards finding a solution.
Yes.
Right? And this is the importance of holding space. If I call you and I ask you, can you hold space? Doesn't necessarily mean I need an answer or a solution to it. At the end of it, you could say, okay, wait, I hear you, and I understand how this could be difficult. Is there anything that you would like me to do or assist with? Because then it may just be, no, actually, I just needed this. I just needed to get it off my chest and I feel better. Or the answer may be, actually, could you pray with me or pray for me? Or can you assist me in whatever way, you know? And then we can see how we can help each other. But we always hear this, can't read each other's minds.
Yeah.
Can read body language like you do so well.
Yeah.
And it's an indicator of something. But again, you can choose to pay attention to that or not. And it's like, she's in a mood again. Actually, I'm not going to I had a bad day today. I'm not going to even ask. And then you'll still get into trouble because did you not see that I was upset?
Yeah. Why didn't you?
Why didn't you? So we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
You can't win.
You can't win.
But and that's the thing. So it's about volunteering information. Even if it seems like it may be irrelevant, I think it's the practice, like you would with gym. It's the constant training. Talk. Just talk.
Yeah.
It's the practice of talking, right? That's our problem, is that we don't talk.
Yeah.
And
communication is not enough.
Correct. So now we're just talking. Let's just get into the habit of talking. Then we can learn over time how to adequately communicate how we feel.
Yeah.
But and I want to touch on this as well. You mentioned, you message in a boys group, and I think every guy has a boys group.
Yeah.
But that boys group is often filled with memes, football talk, or whatever the sport of interest is.
Yeah.
And often that's just a way for us to blow steam, a distraction from the real stuff. And so, sure, we all need it. We don't need to have these conversations all the time, right? It can be a bit heavy and sort of emotionally draining to have it constantly. But I think we talk about more nonsense than everything else because we need our brains to switch off. This is how I know I'm heading into a bad space. If I start watching Big Bang Theory again, I think I watched it 10 times over.
Yeah, repeat.
100%. That and Friends.
Yeah.
If I'm heading to a bed, I'm looking for something that is going to make me laugh. And I know what's coming. I mean, I could recite the script.
It's the same for me and How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Every episode, I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But it's comforting because I know what to expect.
Yeah.
So let me watch it again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a place of safety.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's how I see it. I mean, when I know that I'm investing in a specific space and I have the capacity and ability to invest in that space, then I start watching docu-series around that point of interest because now I'm hungry to learn and see and sort of explore it. But when I'm not in a good space, then you'll see my algorithm is just comedies because that's what I'm needing right now. I'm needing a bit of a endorphin or dopamine, serotonin, and all the happy hormones. I'm requiring it because something is not right in my life. And so we're all capable of identifying those things. We know, we just need to be alert to and mindful. I think mindfulness is so crucial. Being mindful of what our triggers are and catch ourselves before we start going down that slope, because often the slope ends up in a ditch that is dark and is usually prolonged. Because we haven't spoken about this is how you assist me when I'm in that space. You stay there a lot longer because you don't know how to grow out.
Yeah.
And so you've got a partner, but your partner doesn't know how to help you. You never spoke about it.
Yeah.
When I'm in this XYZ, it makes life, everything comes with a manual. PlayStation, Xbox, all of the stuff comes with a manual, washing machine.
Yeah.
So you know if this warning sign is there, this is what you do. Same with your vehicle. The way we maintain...
Call your mechanic uncle.
100%, right? So we constantly... You have to treat your body or yourself as a vehicle. Regular maintenance of your vehicle ensures the health of your vehicle.
Yeah.
And the quality that vehicle maintains. And we all sold cars or traded them in. You know, everybody wants to buy a car with a full service history, not partial or none.
You want it all.
They want it all. But it's an effort that needs to be made in order to maintain every aspect of you.
Yeah.
And so it's to identify, I'm strong here, but I'm weak in these areas. And often identifying that we are weak in an area is difficult.
Yeah.
That because there's a lot of ego and pride, we don't want to...
The self-awareness that you need.
We don't want to acknowledge that we're weak in this area. Because when you acknowledge that you're weak in that area, you are going to be forced to address
it. Yeah.
And we don't even have the skills to address it there. And that's the scary part as well. So there's this constant loop of like fear. So we touch something, we're like, no, that burns. We'll avoid it until such time, if it ever comes back again. And usually it comes back 10 times stronger. And we still haven't developed the muscle, nor the muscle memory to deal with it. And so get through to the other side.
That's crazy. Eh?
Yeah.
If you could give a few points to recap what we've spoken about in terms of what people should be thinking about to try and help deal with what they're going through. Like you spoke about, instead of doing or thinking about it as mental health, mental wellness, so getting to that point of being well, we're calling it mental fitness because it's a constant thing that you need to do, and that being one of the pointers that I'm referring to. But if you could recap some of the pointers that will help people at least start on this journey of being mentally fit, then what would those things be?
So I think the first thing would be create time for yourself. That would be the first. Then also, investing in yourself should never be linked to guilt. Right, and I think that's big for all of us, particularly men. We constantly feel guilty for taking or wanting to take care of ourselves. And yeah, I think those are the two, because within those two things, there's so much to explore. And being able to invest in yourself by creating time for yourself. Yeah. And it's amazing how when you create time for yourself, you have the ability to then touch into every other aspect. So, you have the ability, when you've created a platform, the table, for you to build off and sort of parachute or bungee jump off to a different level within a certain aspect of your life. So whether it be financial, spiritual, physical, mental, relationships, whatever the case may be. So I think making time for yourself to explore yourself, and being okay with the fact that life in itself is not a destination. Mental well-being, not a destination. Financial well-being, not a destination. Nothing is a destination. And I said this to you earlier, right? Is that we've unfortunately learned to treat life like a destination in every aspect. So you were single at a point in time, then you got a girlfriend, and that was a destination, and then you got married, and that was a destination, and then you had a very, no, it was all a journey. It was the start point to a new journey.
Yeah.
So you got married, now your journey as a husband starts, and that's long. Then you've got journey as a parent, and that. So if we focus on everything as a journey, I think there's less space for disappointment and despair. Because we understood that everything is just a checkpoint. Sometimes your check engine light goes on or your oil light goes on because we've neglected to just top up.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to top up. So it's making time, and then also just learning to stand still. There's nothing wrong. Best wine, I'm not a vintner by any means, but wine sits for a while in those tanks. It ferments before it gets bottled. And so taking a break.
King of analogies, eh?
Hey, man.
Coming up with all these good ones.
Hey. It's from reading. This is like...
Avid reader.
Wow, we'll get there. But yeah, I think focusing on creating time for yourself is a good starting point. And identifying, literally writing down. Maybe journaling is actually... Ooh.
That's another topic that I would want us to address in another episode also, because I've thought about it. I haven't done it. My wife gave me a journal, I think probably when I was 21, 22, just shows how long ago, more than 10 years ago. And the idea actually that I had was to write our story, as in from when we got together all the way through life, so that one day when I'm gone, then she can read that, and our son can look at that. That was the idea. And I found it almost impossible to put anything in there with any kind of frequency or making time to do it. Like you said, creating the time. Like I haven't created the time to do any of it, and I want to. I've always wanted to. But I haven't. I still have that book to this day. I just haven't touched it in years probably. And I'd love to unpack the power of journaling, because I think, like I'm assuming you were going to touch on now, it's important to be able to get those thoughts out some way.
Because currently it's just sitting here, and so it's bruising your brain. And what does it do? Like, is it something that's positive? Most of the times our minds tend towards the negative. And I mean, through journaling again, I rediscovered my love for poetry. Absolutely love it. And it is one of the best ways to express how you feel. And I've learned to let go of certain difficult situations through writing poetry. I've had a friend of mine nudge me into, randomly, she cornered me and forced me to do it. But I'm eternally grateful for the fact that she had just given me that bit of a nudge, because it really opened up that ability to start writing. So my phone's starting to fill up with notes randomly.
Nice.
Things hit me and I'll type it out quickly. And it allows me to express it. So I think it also gives you the ability to identify things within yourself that you didn't think needed work. And it's not necessary for others. You could actually discover your purpose. I think a lot of us are struggling with that even. It's like, I'm working a 9 to 5. I'm doing all of these things almost like autopilot, because this is what life is about. But we're sitting there feeling like we don't have purpose. And the longer we sit in that space where we feel like we are purposeless, that then breeds room for hopelessness. That's a dangerous part. I don't think any of us want to be hopeless, right? So, creating time, journaling, and being very vulnerable and open with yourself and honest with yourself. No one else is going to see it, right? They will see it in the change. They'll never see it when you've written it down. Hide it.
That's true.
If you what's it, Joe Goldberg from the series hide it up in the roof, do whatever in the ceiling, do whatever it is you need to do. But yeah, I think that would be the best starting point for it.
Thanks, man.
No, thank you. I really hope these things become more insightful. And I think it will grow. I think it's going to be awesome to have different men around a round table.
Yeah.
Different age groups and walks of life, actually providing insight into what we as men have been enduring. I'm gonna call it enduring. I'm gonna call it enduring. Because enduring refers to being able to carry for a long extended period of time. And to build up that muscle. But not every muscle. Like not all muscle gain is great. Whether you're doing it naturally or with testosterone. I don't know what the guys use these days. Steroids, all of those things. So the endurance, what men have been enduring. And I hope that we actually start shedding light onto it. And really exposing the truths behind what our generation and the coming generation. I didn't necessarily get to share a story about what I had experienced yesterday at work, but I think that we'll touch on at another time. But even those kind of things have such a massive impact on how I view people, myself, scenarios, my problems. As I always say, there's always someone who's going through more than you are.
Yes.
We all have problems. We all have difficulties. And I also believe that we can all be there for each other. It's not perfect, but to have grace for each other is becoming more and more important.
Cool. Thank you. This was a follow-on, I guess, on the episode that we did previously, but I feel like it's the beginning of something that's going to hopefully change many lives, in terms of just getting the topic out there, having it be discussed amongst other men, and knowing that it's okay to talk and be vulnerable, like you said. I'm excited for what's next for us. The topics that we are going to touch on and talk about is, I think, very relevant, and I know that I personally would love to talk about faith, and a topic for me, or a big thing for me, is, am I doing enough as a child of God? Am I doing enough to teach my son about him and what he's done in my life? And I know the answer.
I was going to say, I've got the answer for you.
I know the answer. And the answer is definitely not. I'm not doing enough. Because just to even think, like, when last did I sit and read a Bible verse to him? When last did I pray over him? And that's something that I want to discuss in one of our future episodes. But I'm excited for us to have finally started this thing, because it's going to change lives, whether it's our lives, whether it's the people's watching's lives, and even if it's just that one person, we're making a difference.
And this is the purpose of mental. So you see, you were able to pose a question and then answer it. And then based off that answer that you've given yourself, you can now put things in place to change that, if you are truly passionate about changing it. So to everybody watching, or those who have listened in, this is Mental. Thank you for joining the first or second segment, depending on how you looked at it, if you haven't
seen the
first one. We'll drop a link for Instagram, YouTube, social media, where you can catch us. But until next time, this is Mental.